When the mountain falls, I'll be the sea to swallow it all. The monkey rages, I will free the king.
Hello. Welcome into another edition of the Football Stories radio show, live from Facebook, YouTube, and as you can see, our homes. I am Matt Stanilari. We do have Al Thompson over here, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, and our host here of the radio program, and Big Al Zafiri, co-hosting and doing double duty, producing our show. As always, we got a jam-packed show for you guys tonight. Jalen Hurts and the big Eagles win there going there. So a lot of excitement there. But before we get into the meat of the show, I'm going to toss over to Al Thompson with a quick word.
That's right. And can you hear me? Because I can't hear myself.
Oh, yeah, we're good.
Can
we can
hear
you.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. The Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group says downsize without compromise. Gone are the days of the myth that you have to lose luxury when you downsize your home. Welcome to Lexington Mews, a new construction condo development promising everything you need to downsize in luxury. Distinction, style, and convenience are the first words that come to mind when thinking about the brand new townhome-style condos at the private community of Lexington Mews in Woolwich, New Jersey, listed by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, featuring 3 exclusive model options, offering 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and an incredible 2 stories of living space, plus there's an option for you to finish the basement for your ultimate man cave for watching all those games. Models include a master suite with walk-in closet, second floor laundry room, and many upgrade options. Conveniently located just 35 minutes from Philly. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. For your tour, check us out on Facebook or go to southjerseyteam.com. And obviously a lot to get to tonight. The Eagles, of course, put themselves right back into the race, if you want to call it that, to the NFC East. I put a kind of a goof on Facebook, but it's really right there. I mean, the Eagles have a path to win the NFC East with a 7-8-1 record. They're going to have to win out, and it starts this week against Arizona, and we'll see if they can do it. It's going to be hard. What can I say? And Jalen Hurts, though, gave the Eagles fans a lot of hope with that game. I mean, they poured on 246 yards of just on rushing against the number one, statistically number one defense in the NFL, and another 167 yards in the air. Now, his completion percentage wasn't that great, but overall, you have to tip your hat to the kid. And the offensive line, no sacks. Mm-hmm. And when you're an offensive line and you get 246 yards rushing, even at the college level, that's outstanding. Yeah. At the pro level, that's
outrageous.
Outrageous. And these 5 guys with 3 backups playing, basically, with Jordan Mailata, with Jack Driscoll and Nate Herbig. Those guys come up with a goose egg in the sack department. That is big time. So, but the coach is walking a little bit of a tightrope here. I think you might agree with that. In fact, you may want to play the bite here. Doug Peterson was asked on Monday why he hasn't heaped a whole lot of praise on Jalen Hurts, but he may need Carson Wentz down the road. That's for sure. And so here is the coach talking about why he has not heaped a lot of praise on Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I was thinking of a lot of things. Quite honestly, I was thinking of Carson, but I was thinking about the rest of the team and how the rest of the team played, in the game. And Jalen did, after looking at the film again today, I mean, Jalen played well. I mean, he was a big part of, the success we had on offense and obviously helping us win that football game. But there were a lot of other great individual performances on both sides of the ball, right? I think of Miles Sanders. I think of, Josh Sweat and Javon Hargrave and, Fletcher Cox had a big game, big sack. We had 2 defensive takeaways in the game. So there were a lot of positives coming out of the football game. And I just didn't want to say, hey, it was all about one guy because, you guys know me and my answers. And I've always been about the team. And really that was a team win yesterday.
And when you think about it, he's right. I mean, when you go through – and real quick before we go any further, reminding you at 7 o'clock we are going to have Dr. Sean McMillan of Virtua Health Systems, and Rock Hoppin is going to be joining us at some point tonight. So but The defense came up huge. 2 turnovers. They sacked Taysom Hill 5 times. The journeyman linebacker, Alex Singleton, had 11 tackles. Josh Sweat and Javon Hargrave had 2 sacks. And the defense held the Saints under 100 yards rushing as a team. That is an outstanding performance by any level.
100%. I mean, you look at the way the Eagles team played, and I think the team, I mean, that was kind of the thing, it was a great team effort on both sides of the ball. You saw Jim Schwartz on that defensive side and the effort that they put forth. They knew exactly what to do to stymie Taysom Hill in that offense. They knew exactly how to put the pressure on him, and they were able to play complementary football. I mean, how many times have we seen this team on defense go out there and get a turnover for the offense to just leave points out there on the field and not be able to capitalize on it? They go out there, they get that strip sack, they get the ball back, and what do? They march the ball right down the field, and Miles Sanders punches it in for a touchdown. When your team can play in that kind of an atmosphere where they can build off each other and their chemistry can kind of feed off each other in that momentum, you give yourself an opportunity to not just win games, but I mean, the score was not indicative of how that game was played. They won that game fairly handedly, I thought. I thought it was a dominating effort from the Eagles on both sides of the ball. When it came to Jalen Hurts, I mean, the one thing you expected from Jalen Hurts was obviously some of the athleticism, breaking the pocket, but I didn't expect him to come up with a goose egg with 0 sacks. I mean, he navigated the pocket like an absolute professional, which if you're looking back on his tape from Oklahoma and Alabama, some of the pocket pressure kind of pocket presence was some of the knacks that were against him. He shed all of those. He actually performed really well, and what he did was just run the offense. He did exactly what was asked of him to do, and I think when you're thinking of, Doug's comments and maybe not heaping so much praise on Jalen and kind of saving that for Carson because of, maybe not trying to make him feel bad or whatever it might be. I think the one thing you can say is Jalen ran the offense exactly how Doug Peterson kind of put it together for him to do so. And when you look at a record that Doug Peterson has with backup quarterbacks, which is 11-3, 11-2 if you throw out that really junk time, week 17 effort with Nate Sudfeld, a lot of that has to do with the fact that Doug is a good coach. He's a good offensive, game planner. He knows what he's doing, but it kind of takes somebody to be back there to kind of run that the way it's meant to be ran. And I think with Jalen Hurts, you saw that kind of come forward. You saw his ability to run, help the offensive line. Like you said about, a bunch of guys on the offensive line who were not expected to be starters that played tremendous, out there. A lot of that was alleviating the pain because Jalen was able to break the pocket and make up for those opportunities where, if that was Carson back there, you might have been looking at a lot more 3rd and longs, which means you're not looking at converting first downs, which means you're not putting up points. All of staying on schedule, everything that Jalen Hurts did running that offense was just, it was watching somebody who felt like he was supposed to be there. And I think that was the biggest, compliment I can kind of give to Jalen in that moment, because it didn't seem to get too big for him. He was able to do exactly what was being asked of him, and there was obviously room for improvement. It wasn't an overbounding, star-studded effort on his part, but when you're looking at 106 yards on the ground, which was more than the Saints gave up on the ground to quarterbacks all year long by about 25 yards, and then you look at what he did in the air as far as just making the passes that were in front of him, all of that just kind of bleeds to that ability of saying, hey, maybe Doug really isn't the issue. The play calling, that we kind of weren't hampering on Doug for all year long. There is times on there where I think Doug does need to deserve to get a little bit of that flack, but a lot of it I think is kind of edging back to that article that has kind of haunted Carson Wentz for a long time now, which is Carson just doesn't want to run the offense that Doug is giving him, and a lot of that fault has to fall back on the quarterback's shoulders. And a lot of the praise in this ability has to fall back on Jalen Hurts and his ability just to listen to something that's given to him and run it the way it's meant to be ran.
Yeah, it was interesting. But I remember a coach when I was at Archbishop Carroll telling me that, we had plays where he gained yards as a runner where the entire field was wide open. It was like Daniel Jones against the Eagles that time. There was no shifty moves at all. He just ran to his right, or sometimes ran to his left, and there was just all this open field. and he took off. I mean, he gained 19 yards on one and 18 yards on another, and you're not going to get that every week,
right?
We don't know if he's the same thing as Kyler Murray. We don't know that yet, but he definitely took advantage of it for sure. And here is Doug Peterson was asked between Foles and now Hurts. Peterson has an amazing record. You just called it out. It's 11-2 if you take out that throwaway game. But he's barely over 500 with Carson Wentz. So he was asked that and to try to explain it. And then we have to play the next one right after it because the follow-up was very good, saying that you'll see what I mean. Here is Peterson talking about why he coaches so much better with backups.
With backup. Zach, I think it's a great question, and it's something I've thought about that. I think about not just our team, but I think about other teams in the National Football League who play a backup quarterback, right? And the success that those teams have. I think about New Orleans. Think about the opponent we just played with Taysom Hill. I think they're now 3-1 with Taysom Hill as a starter this year, and go back when Teddy Bridgewater played a couple years ago. I think he was 5-0 with New Orleans, and you can pick out a lot of different teams that have had backup quarterbacks with success, and there's just not necessarily a lot of film out there on these guys. I think as play callers, as you put plans together, maybe you keep things a touch smaller, you keep the verbiage down a little bit, maybe you pull back or pull plays that you've used, earlier in the season, time on task, all kinds of things kind of play into that. And then of course, you got to take the backup quarterback himself. He's getting an opportunity to play, tends to play well, and you always see what's going to happen, the next time out. Right. So, it's hard to pinpoint, but I think you can put you can kind of point a finger at a couple.
And there's the and next up is going to be, he was asked right away. Well, Sean Payton has an outstanding record with Drew Brees, and your record with Carson Wentz is barely above water. And so here is his answer to that. It was a good question.
As your quarterback,
is there a chemistry issue?
No, and listen, Carson and our relationship's great. I mean, we've had great communication, and I just look at this year and the amount of the adversity that we've been faced and played with all season, and trying to make things work. But there's no issue with Carson and I look at maybe what I do or how I call a game. Maybe I can approach it a little bit differently. Moving forward that way. But that's something that I haven't, listen, teams have a lot of film on your starter. They have ways to prepare for your starter, and they can take away certain things, and we've got to be able to, compensate for that. But there's been no issue.
Well, there you go. There's no issue with us. But again, it goes back to that, to the people who kind of, to reporters who have said that he's not the easiest guy in the world to coach, and he rubs some of his teammates the wrong way. And then you get two quarterbacks now who have been outstanding. Now you only have the one game. I mean, let's not go crazy. The big test is going to be this week. Al, what do you think? This is everything. And if the Eagles win this game, they have an excellent chance of winning the NFC East. Yeah, we just found out that what's his name didn't practice today, Alex Smith, and with a bad ankle, and Daniel Jones is maybe out. So it's all like last year. It's just all. One thing you have to give Doug Peterson, he does get lucky sometimes.
Well, it's been a roller coaster ride of sorts from the get. The Eagles looked like they were going to run train on this division, and they turned out to be flat. And then the Giants, everybody was the new darling of the NFC East. And then the Redskins started sneaking up, and now they are both falling apart. It's just, you can't keep track of what's going on at this point. But I listen. I'm going to take each game as at a time. I heard Baldy say it earlier. You got to think of like a little Christmas present under your tree. You got this win. Take it for what that is. Don't look any further into it. Just each week. I mean, at this point, I feel Jalen Hurts, and I feel like he should be the starting quarterback outside of him just falling apart in the middle of the game for the rest of the season.
Yeah,
well, he nailed it. Baldy nailed it. In his column, the one that's out in Football Stories right now, he nailed it. He said they against Green Bay, they should have just put him in and run the ball to death, and let your defense have their day. And what happened? He nailed it. He just totally nailed it. And that worked against the number one seed. Now, granted, they were missing their Drew Brees, a huge difference, but they had played well. In many cases with Taysom Hill.
Listen, it was good against the Saints a little bit. 3 games in a row with a backup, Taysom Hill especially. The Eagles had enough tape on him to really get an idea of what they can do to keep him in check. And I'm not taking anything away from Jalen Hurts, but like I said, I'm taking it one game at a time. And part of you wants to think, hey, yeah, is that whole story coming out? Is there more truth behind it than we thought? But once again, I got to put the blame on Howie, because this wouldn't be news. This wouldn't be, and Doug, like, this would not be news to them that he's hard to coach or he's hard to deal with or whatever it is. They would know this way before they saw $100 million contract with him. So that goes back to making bad.
You got a keyboard player in there somewhere?
Yeah, right. It goes back to making bad business decisions once again. And if you had any inkling that Carson wasn't ready, and you had an inkling that you're going to take a guy in the second round, just even as a good backup after what you saw, then why do they sign him to this contract? Like it goes back to, like, I keep going back to that. And I'm not like, listen, I think Jalen Hurts looks great, but also we've seen mobile quarterbacks look great for a while, and then they fell apart after people got enough tape and figured them out. Like, Lamar Jackson is definitely not having the year that he had last year. It just seems to play out that way. So when it comes down to it, I think I heard Baldy say this too. When it comes down to it, at the end of this, when you make a deep run into the playoffs and into the Super Bowl, it's pocket presence. It's being able to play in there, and like, will that play out the same way? So I don't know. I mean,
I don't know either. And I mean, I would say this. It's like, if Jalen Hurts goes out and he wins this game, if they win a couple more, if they make the playoffs, whatever it is, the whole thing is like, you're not only just evaluating Jalen Hurts, though, you're evaluating Doug Peterson in this offense in a really tough year where there's been some calls for Doug Peterson to get the axe along with Howie. And I think when you're giving this opportunity here, I mean, Jalen obviously has an opportunity to play himself into a starting role or play himself into the conversation to at least compete in the offseason. We'll see what happens. Obviously it's a long offseason, and there's going to be a lot of questions and a lot of changes, hopefully, aimed here at this Eagles organization. So, nothing's going to be clear come the end of the season, but you're going to have a clearer picture of who the problem is. And I think that's what this Jalen Hurts thing at least offered you an opportunity in one game to be able to look at, was if given a quarterback who is able to run an offense, if Doug Peterson with a week and a half to be able to, go out and mold this quarterback to run this style of offense and this running offense with him and Miles Sanders being a two-headed monster, basically, that right there kind of leads me to say, hey, Doug is the right guy. Doug is in the right position. I don't think Doug should go anywhere, because I like what he was able to do. That game planning factor gives me the opportunity to say, hey, given a better command of the offense, a quarterback with a better command, that they can go to the places that they need to go to. And so I think that's what this kind of gives them there. And another reason why I think Jalen Hurts should play the rest of the season out is just to continue to give them that opportunity to look at it. We already know what they were able to do with Carson, and it wasn't that good. If Carson is going to be a reclamation project, if he's going to get back to some type of form, We know that throwing him to the wolves in this atmosphere, as this offensive line being broken down the way it is not the way to do it. At least with Jalen Hurts and his escapability, he has the opportunity to take some of those pieces that might be a real big down factor with a more pocket-centric quarterback like Carson, and he's able to turn them into something positive. I mean, of his 106 yards he was rushing for, 8 first downs he gained with just his legs. I mean, that right there is just an opportunity that it was not going to be here with Carson. Now, I'm not saying Carson isn't a athletic quarterback, but he's not a mobile quarterback. They're not the same. He can get
a hybrid one, I call him.
Right, exactly. And the thing with Carson is like, a lot of the things that we've asked, like, all right, why aren't they rolling Carson out more? Why aren't they doing these things more? Well, we don't know how many of those plays that were scheduled for him to be a rollout quarterback or to do certain these things, he's checking into something different. We don't even know that, because that's what Carson is even allowing to kind of play out, is the game plan in and itself. And so, a lot of the questions that are kind of aimed at Doug and saying like, well, why do you game plan better for a backup quarterback than you do with Carson? It's like, well, we don't even really know if that's the case because of the autonomy Carson has with the offense and his ability to kind of override some of that decision making. And right now we know that the kind of offense that Carson wants to run is not working. And so it's like, well, which one is it, man? Like, we're giving you either the blank slate, the RPO style offense that Jalen Hurts had ran, that Nick Foles was successful with for a few years here in Philadelphia, but you don't want to run that. You want to run your own offense, and your own offense looks like dog crap. So what, I don't understand, like, that push and pull and why it's like, so hard to kind of get those reins back in with Carson. I don't know if he's really that hard to coach. I don't know if people in that locker room really don't like him. But what I do know is in the actual execution of what's being asked of him, he's not doing it. And so if that's the case, that does give the opportunity to kind of look at an option here with Jalen Hurts to say, hey, if we have somebody with a fresh set of legs, quite literally, and a fresh set of eyes to kind of see the offense through, and he's able to execute here. And again, that means, not just against the Saints, but against Arizona and then Washington and Dallas and the rest of the games to close out the year here. That does bring up a lot of questions for the offseason, and hopefully with Carson looking at this from the sidelines, some eyes back into himself to say, hey, like, maybe I shouldn't be this guy who thinks he can do it all. Maybe I shouldn't think that I know it all. Maybe I should just run what's in front of me, and maybe I would have that same level of success that Jalen's having.
Yeah, and it's I did want to ask you guys, do you think that with this situation that they're in, people always say, well, they should lose all their games and get a better draft pick, because if they win the division, it takes them to pick number 17 instead of where their actual record would have them. If you win the division, you are, boom, you run down the end. Now, does how many times does that actually work when you kind of rig the draft so that you move up? Well, how many times has it actually worked? The Sixers are still struggling with all that tanking they did, right? It looked good last night, but who knows? They haven't done anything with all that tanking. They tanked for 4 years, and they're still having problems with it. The Eagles moved up to get Carson Wentz. They got a Super Bowl out of him, putting him in position. He didn't win the Super Bowl. Nick Foles did. And when has it happened? I mean, Jared Goff, the jury is still out on him if he was really the best pick over number 1 overall. Do you think that they should go for this and win at all costs and try to win this division and get into the playoffs? Or do you think he should just, he knows the players are going to give 100%, but only put players out there that he's going to just lose enough to get a high draft pick? What do you think?
Listen, I'm always torn by this. I always say I want to see my team win, but I guess it's who's making the pick will make a decision for me. Yeah. I mean, if it's Howie Roseman, you give him the 1st overall or the 100th overall, it's still going to suck. I mean, he just doesn't do a good job with that. So that's a big telltale there. And I also think Howie and Doug are both fighting a little bit for a job. I don't think Howie as much as Doug, but I still think they're fighting for a job. So putting in him, making this team look a lot better than it did the first 3 quarters of the season helps them out tremendously for future. So, I mean, it depends on what eyes you're looking at. I mean, if you're telling me that, Carson's around, Jalen Hurts is going to be the backup, and Doug may or may not be here, Howie's definitely gone, I'm probably leaning more towards the draft pick. But, overall, I want to see my team win. And then I go back to what Baldy said. I said it's like a nice little treat. We've been force fed just some terrible football over the entire season, and even the ones that we did win were not pretty at all. They were
joyful wins. This was the first joyful win they've had, where you really felt great coming off the field, right? And as a fan, you felt great. Those 3 other wins was like, the San Francisco was kind of fun, but that has lost its value as a quality win as their season has progressed. The other 2 were just awful. Those games against Dallas and the Giants were awful. I mean, you kind of like took a shower after that, And so this was the first time they've won, and it really felt great.
Well, it's also a team effort. I mean, that was the first time that that the offense, the defense, and special teams were all kind of on the same page.
Oh,
there's many games where the defense looked great, the offense looked like crap, the special teams that looked like they were just like foosball table guys just running around the field aimlessly.
Yeah.
But also kind of back to what you both said, reclamation project. If that's what they see Carson as, then they need to move on from him, because I think that he's been kind of misused and mishandled, and like I said, part of it's got to be on him. It's not just Howie and Doug. It's kind of a collaboration. Is it his problems being taught or being coached or whatever you want to call it? But if he's a quote unquote reclamation project, you need to move on from him. And maybe he goes out to Frank Reich in Indy or something, and they have a quarterback, and he's happy, they're happy, he gets a fresh start, and maybe he actually finally gets to go from soup to nuts, win a Super Bowl or something like that. It's just it just keeps like compounding on compounding on compounding. I don't want to move on from Carson, but also, like you said, if it's considered a reclamation project, I don't know if I want to. I don't want to deal with that, especially for $100+ million.
No, I mean, I can totally understand that there too, Al. I mean, I think the big thing when it comes to moving on from Carson is like, well, one, what is there to get from it, right? I mean, I think the package, whether it's a single first-round draft pick, if that's really floated around the table, I don't know if that would be, the needle mover to get them into it or to get them out of it. That's a big discussion with the Carson thing too, because, as much as you would say, hey, even if Jalen wins these rest of these games out, like, do if giving up on Carson is the way to go on that? I'm not exactly sure. I mean, that's a big question, and it's probably one that, like you said about the Howie situation, should be answered by somebody else, somebody with a fresh set of eyes who's looking at this from an area where they're not tainted. They didn't spend the draft capital to move up to get the guy, and they didn't give him the contract to say that he is the guy. They need somebody with a fresh set of eyes who's not part of that process to kind of make that call. When it comes to the whole winning thing too, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, if you're a fan, you never want your team to lose. You want to root for your team to win. I think, even if you are in a case of the situation the Eagles are in and saying, hey, pick 17, pick 7, whatever it might be, like, win out, win the division, who knows, right? Like, that's what you're rooting for at the beginning of the year. I think that's kind of where the expectations come. Like, if you're a Jets fan, for instance, and you were watching that game against the Raiders where you might have won it, and you might be jockeying and losing opportunity to get Trevor Lawrence to Jacksonville, that's something different. That's a team that has nothing to root for besides the number 1 overall pick, and they've pretty much been in on that bandwagon from day one. That's the only way their team is going to get back into being any semblance of good. For the Eagles, at the beginning of this year, the expectation was win the NFC East, compete in the playoffs, and possibly go as far as you can go. I don't see how you just consistently, or not consistently, but through the season and going even in this way, you would change that kind of prognosis on it and automatically say, hey, I want to tank. Especially if Howie is the guy making the pick. I mean, what's the confidence level of you getting the guy the right pick in the top 10 than there would be at pick 17? I think Jason Kelsey at his press conference today or yesterday kind of brought up some good points too, where he was talking about, hey, we go out there to win. It's not the NBA, even in a case like the Sixers, they got an Embiid, they got a Simmons. They are players who potentially could change the direction of the franchise, because in the NBA, one player can do that. In the NFL, it doesn't work that way. You can get a really good quarterback. You can get somebody who, again, changes a little bit of the needle, but nobody who's going to take you from worst to first just automatically like that. That's not the way the NFL works. It is a team sport. You need good coaching, good player personnel, good GMing. All of that needs to come together as a collective. So in the case of the Eagles, yeah, I mean, you want them to try to win out. I mean, if they can repeat the magic 3 years in a row and go back out there and sneak into the playoffs, I mean, that again is, not an indictment on Doug Peterson and his coaching job, which has kind of come into question, but it's been an indictment on Howie Roseman. And again, just kind of reframing that to say, hey, if we get somebody better at the top who's calling the shots, who's filling this roster, maybe we won't start so slow. Maybe we won't have all these problems that we've had, or have a collection of 30-year-olds who are bound to get injured. But we also know we now have a coach who can, every time our back is against the wall, make the most out of every situation. And I think that does speak to what the job that Doug has done so far. And, if he can do it again, that in itself would give him a whole heck of another opportunity going forward.
And we have to take a break right now. We'll be back with more on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Groups, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field. Whether it's a buyer's or seller's market, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
And welcome back here to Football Stories, the radio show, live on Facebook, on YouTube, and obviously you can see from our homes. I am Matt Santaleri. Over there, as say to the left of me, but in the box, we got Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, our host here of the radio program. We got Big Al Zafiri chiming in a co-host role, and he's also running those boards as always, too. And before we get back to our great show we got in store for you, I'm going to throw it over to Al for a quick message from our sponsor.
That's right. First-time home buyers, stop paying rent. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group can help you own a brand new condo with no money down if you qualify. Welcome to Lexington Mews, a new construction condo development featuring townhome-style condos drenched in luxury. Distinction, style, and convenience are the first words that come to mind when thinking about the brand new condos at the private community of Lexington Mews in Woolwich Township, New Jersey, listed by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. Featuring 3 exclusive model options, offering 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and an incredible 2 stories of living space. Plus, there's an option for you to finish the basement for your ultimate man cave for watching all the games. Models include a massive suite with walk-in closet, second-floor laundry room, and many upgrade options. Conveniently located just 35 minutes from Philadelphia, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group, 856-478-6562. Check us out on Facebook or go to southjerseyteam.com. And before we get back to the football, you want to talk a little bit about what you guys watch the Sixers Celtics game last night? I know you did, Matt.
I did.
Now the Celtics were without
they were without Kemba Walker. They were without Tristan Thompson, who kind of is pretty much believed to be their starting big as the season kind of gets started, an upgrade over Daniel Tice. And then they were out without Romeo Langford, who was their lottery pick from last year, who they also have some pretty big expectations for going into this year. But I think what you saw, especially in the first couple of minutes there for the Sixers, I mean, was a dominant effort from Joel Embiid. I mean, you saw a guy go out there with intent to score at pretty much all levels. When he was in the paint, he looked lethal in there. When he was outside, I mean, Taco Fall is a guy who the Celtics are still trying to work out and try to figure out, hey, like where can this abnormously big guy fit into the modern NBA? And Joel Embiid was like, I mean, why would I go in the post? I'll just dribble out here and I'll drain this fadeaway real quick. It was just a big thing there from Embiid, where you saw at all levels of the court an intention to score. And I thought that was a big thing. I think you saw from Ben Simmons was an ability to push the play. He looked, again, another lethal passer. His give and goes were incredible. His cuts were right on the money. He was getting into every area where he was able to score. And I think even though you weren't seeing, obviously a big, onus on developing a big shot or anything from there, you saw everything kind of come together. You saw the famed Shake Milton, who we kind of, heard only rumors about, before the bubble basically started back up, when he was supposed to take over as point guard there. You saw him come out and he was on fire. I mean, there was really just all levels of the Sixers kind of firing on all cylinders on the offensive side of the ball. The Celtics looked like a team that didn't have a guy like Kemba Walker, who was supposed to be a big pusher of the offense for them. They looked really stagnant. And when you get the type of, really terrible shooting night from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown both, you kind of knew the Celtics were going to be lost. As far as positivity goes, again, from the Sixers, I mean, Maxi's little floater flying through, that's a good sign, seeing some productivity from a young guy who has some ability coming out of college to kind of step right on into a roster of veterans and kind of find his rollout on this team. I think from a Sixers perspective, that was a big one. And from the Celtics perspective, they got similar play out of their late first-round draft pick and Peyton Pritchard out of Oregon, who looks like he could potentially be at least a good level backup point guard in this league, somebody who can hit the outside shot and knows how to find an open man when needed, had a couple of really good dimes himself. So obviously, it's preseason. There's not a whole lot to really take from it on a win and loss perspective. So you got to look at some of the developmental characteristics of it. And I think there's a lot more positives on Philadelphia's end than there were on Boston's end. Although if you look a little deeper, you can find some things to at least hang your hat on both sides.
Yeah. I mean, they both struggled offensively and defensively at one point, but both made comebacks. So it looks like Sixers at first, Celtics again, back to the Sixers. But like you said, one of the big things you think of is that Maxey actually was drafted this year and played this year. He's not automatically injured and sitting for the whole year. That's a big takeaway. And just the fact that, what Seth adds to there, Danny Green adds to the team, like just the shooting that we haven't had since the year before JJ left, because even last year he was here was still questionable at best.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just to have that, we can take those jumpers and all that stuff, which probably takes a lot of the, pressure off Ben Simmons. But at the same time, you also saw Ben Simmons driving to the basket a little bit more than we've seen as of lately. So we see him being the aggressor. So that's a good start.
Yeah, and Tobias Harris, I mean, you saw him get, the whole thing of him kind of being reunited with Doc Rivers. If that could kind of unlock some of the great play he had with Los Angeles before that trade had kind of come about. And you see him drop 16 points, 7 of 11 shooting for him, and a plus 16 all the way around. I mean, he kind of filled up the stat sheet a little bit. I mean, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, a block. He was kind of all over the place too. And looking at this roster, when it came to the terms of like, where is the Sixers ceiling? A lot of people expected going into the offseason they had to make one of 2 moves, but probably 2 moves, which was get rid of the Al Horford contract, which they did, and possibly move on from Tobias Harris for whatever package that might bring. And I think at least in one game sense, and kind of seeing with Doc Rivers, you saw an ability to make the Tobias Harris experience work with Embiid and Simmons on the court at the same time. And a lot of that did have to do with getting play from guys like Shake Milton, getting play from guys like Seth Curry and Danny Green, and how that shooting around the outside can kind of make up for that lack of shooting that they had last year. And I think Tobias looked like himself out there. He looked like the version of a player who would get that max contract. And again, one game, one preseason game, don't want to throw it all out there. But if you're just still looking for things to be positive about, that was a huge bit of positivity on the Sixers end, because that's a huge contract, a big piece of the pie when it comes to salary cap. And if he can contribute in some way, shape, or form, especially the way he did last night, that does raise the Sixers ceiling in a very competitive Eastern Conference.
Well, here's Doc Rivers. He was asked last night after the game about what he thought about Tyree Maxey, the rookie first-round draft pick.
Quarter tonight.
Yeah, he's good. And I've said that he's a good player. He's going to push for minutes because he's a good basketball player. He knows how to play. Can't speed him up. He's got a plethora of shots. Make simple plays. And and I'm throwing this out to Cal, as I said before, Kentucky guys coming to NBA prepared. This kid knows how to defend. He talks on defense. He's been coached for sure.
All right, there you go. And so Sixers look good. It's a way to get started. They were very enthusiastic. They had some funny stuff going on there with fake crowd noise, but they all seemed to like it. They had the band down there. They had the cheerleaders down there. They had the mascot down there. And they tried to simulate as much of a home court advantage as they could. And I would suspect a lot of the NBA arenas are going to do the same thing until they get the vaccine out there and they can start filling these places up again, which I think we all miss.
Yeah, 100%. As a Boston fan, I really appreciated the "you sucks" after the Celtics players were getting introduced, because to really feel like you're playing in Philadelphia, you need that experience there.
Yeah.
So when it comes to them simulating the experience and kind of bringing that fan atmosphere into the broadcast, at least it didn't feel like they weren't there, other than your eyes telling you they weren't there. The feeling was there, and so that was definitely appreciated on that end too.
Yeah, and going back to the Eagles, but not only is Doug Peterson, kind of walking a tightrope here with his relationship with his 2 quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz are walking a tightrope with each other. They need to keep that, because the whole team's watching this and seeing how they get along. It's a tough situation for both of them. I mean, in real life, no. I mean, they're getting paid enormous amounts of money to play a kid's game, but and Carson Wentz, every time he gets suppressed, just has to kind of flip over that automatic deposit that he gets every week, that'll brighten your spirits up, right?
Right.
So but Jalen Hurts was asked, did he have any conversations with Carson Wentz during the game on Sunday? And here's what he had to say.
What was that like?
Yeah, he had a few tips for me. A few little things kind of pointing out here and there. Certain looks, seeing space of the defense and stuff. So he was very helpful this week. As far as the team, the guys that just told me to be you. Go out there and be Jay Hurts. And everything else to take care of itself. And we all had each other's back. That's the beauty about all of this. We had each other's back. Going to battle out there against a really good football team, and we have so much. We had so much money we left on the table. So moving forward, we just want to continue to build, learn from our mistakes, and hope.
I like the left money on the table, but for Jalen Hurts, for his press conferences like the one today, he was so almost like he was sedated. I thought somebody should go over there with a defibrillator and clear, to end up liven up a little bit. And, he was that was Sheila Jackson Lee and Jim Jordan compared to what he was today. You know what I mean? This kid is his blood must flow at about 1/10 of a normal human's. And even people started asking him, nothing seems to bother you one way or another. You're just the same. It seems like he's almost like a cyborg or something. You know what I mean?
It's also wait and see until you get the Philly daggers coming at you when he's not winning.
This kid's been around. When you go to what you lead your team to 2 Final Fours, winning a national title in one of the 2, and then your 3rd year you get kind of kicked to the curb, and then you move on to another program, iconic program. You kind of get thick skin, and you've been there. You've had the daggers, you've had the cheers, and I guess seems like he just wants to ignore all of it. That I'm not here. If I win a Super Bowl, then I'll holler and scream. They did catch him. This guy is so serene looking that when he got finished his little post-game interview, that they have on the sideline afterwards, my photographer, and I'm sure and other photographers, caught him with this little smile over his face as he's jogging off the field, and you can catch it on my game story. But that was about as emotional as you see this kid. I mean, he has ice in his veins, to say the least, and he played that way, without a question.
100%. I mean, obviously, like you said, Al, I mean, the Philly media does have its own way to kind of bring out people out of their shells and that ability. But when you play at Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and then you play in Oklahoma, I mean, I can't think of 2 places that care as much about football as Philadelphia does, as those 2 places do when it comes to college football. Yeah. So it's not like he hasn't dealt with a lot of big, expectations on his shoulders and reporters asking him some tough questions. And, he does seem like that kind of guy, like you said, like a cyborg, where he just doesn't let anything kind of get to him. He just has this ability to kind of, shake it off. And that's going to be a fantastic trait to have here because, losses are eventually bound to happen. It's the NFL. It's going to happen. And so that just gives you at least somewhere to kind of know, hey, he's not going to get too up. He's not going to get too down. He's just going to be ready and steady. And so that does give in the locker room a presence to the rest of his teammates that kind of lets them know, hey, we're here for business. This is a business and this is how we're going to take care of it. I'm taking care of my business, whether it be on the field or off the field. I expect the same thing from you guys. So I think that's a big thing to have from Jalen Hurts. And I don't think that's really going to go anywhere. I do want to see him smile a little bit more, maybe get a little bit happier when some good things happen to him. But when it comes down to the whole grand, kind of scope of things, I think that's a positive for him to kind of look at. And while it might, make the media a little bit angry because you're not going to get all the fancy sound bites out of him like you would out of, Lamar Jackson, after his interviews, basically say, hey man, I had the cramps, dude. It wasn't what you thought it was after his comeback win against Cleveland. All of those.
He's not Baker Mayfield. That's for sure.
No, exactly. So that, again, big positives, I think, on that end of it. And I think that just goes to show the type of person that Jalen Hurts is and how committed he was to kind of buying into this from the get-go. He knew he was coming into a place where they had a starter on the books who was about to get this big-time contract, and that didn't deter Jalen Hurts from putting in the work. to get to this point, right? And so it's like all of those things. I mean, some other quarterbacks, if you got drafted and you were supposed to be a fringe first-round draft pick or be a second-round draft pick to be a guy who is going to be able to get an opportunity to maybe start really quickly, and you went to a place where there was already a starter who is going to be getting paid big money and all of this, I mean, that would usually kill somebody's confidence. That would just shoot you in the heart and say, man, I got the next 3 to 4 years to toil here before I get an opportunity to do anything else. That didn't deter Jalen Hurts, and a lot of that is the reason why he's here in this position as we speak, because he put in the work to get to this part, and he knew, hey, once my number's called, I got to be ready, and Jalen Hurts has been that type of player to just be ready no matter when.
How much does missing, 3 out of their 4 starters in the secondary were knocked out of that game? Mm-hmm. 2 things. What does it say about this defense that they really never skipped a beat except for the very, very end? And it was kind of a shock that you were almost running the clock out. Jalen Hurts turns the ball over. And, Taysom Hill's a pretty good quarterback, and they needed 18 seconds to score a touchdown.
Yeah.
And but except for that, they were masterful most of the game. And Alvin Kamara, he didn't do squat. He had 11 carries for 50 yards, 4.5 average, and he did score a touchdown. But did he have an impact on this game? Like he really didn't. Taysom Hill ran for 33 yards on 5 carries, but most of that was broken plays and things. And Murray carried the ball a few times, but they only had 96 yards total. None of it was impactful. They were really, I was shocked at how little they really, I thought they'd be like trying to dance with a drunk lady or something. They were just, they were lethargic almost. The way the Eagles just could totally control them. And even when those 3 guys, Avonte Maddox goes down, Darius Slay goes down with a head injury, which is depressing, right? If you're the rest of the defense. And then you lose Rodney McLeod, and they announced that he's out for the year.
Yeah.
And so that's tough. And so what do you think what's that going to do? What do you think? Is Jim Schwartz going to be able to pull rabbits out of his hat? Because we see what a great defensive line is doing. It's given the Washington football team new life, because that is the only thing they have going on. Alex Smith, with all the great story he's doing pretty horrible actually right now. And he may not even play this week. If you look at those games, Washington football team's D-line, what's his name? Chase Young scored a touchdoan from midfield last week. So is the D-line enough to carry them over the finish line?
You're going to have to hope so. At this point, you're really going to have to hope so. If you watch the game, even before a lot of these guys went down against the Saints, a lot of the players, there's some really good contested catches, except, Emmanuel Sanders literally ripped the ball out of somebody's hand. Thomas literally ripped the ball out of somebody's hand. It looked like it could have gone either way, but they both won the bout for the ball and got their touchdowns for it. The whole thing with Alvin Kamara, since Taysom Hill's been in there, it hasn't really been a great back and forth with him and Alvin Kamara. So that I wasn't really surprised about. I was really surprised how they could still, with all the injuries. I thought when those injuries started happening, and it looked like, the Saints really kind of started getting the gist of what they were getting from Jalen Hurts. They really did slow him down, but just not enough for them to win the game. So, now that the Cardinals have some tape, we all know the Cardinals defense isn't something to write home about. The defensive line is going to be a huge factor here, because you have to get to Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
And because DeAndre Hopkins is not going to get beat out by some schlub off the street.
That is true. And the way that the Arizona Cardinals attack you with 3, 4, 5 wide receivers sometimes on the outside there, it's really going to delve into the depth there on the Eagles that, they're already going to be shorthanded in to kind of have to deal with. But like Al said, I mean, the D-line, you're going to have to hope that you're going to get this type of play out of them. And I think that's the meat and potatoes of this defense is built that way. So it's not like they're not up to task in that area. It's just to see, can they take over a game in the way that they kind of did last week. And so Javon Hargrave is a guy who got paid a big contract, and for the first half of the season really didn't show much. But for the second half of the season, I mean, that guy has been filling up a stat sheet all the way around. And so when you're getting that push out of him, you got Fletch in the middle. You have those guys getting that push. Sweat, a guy who I brought up, early in the season as somebody who they're going to need to kind of get really good play out of. And they've pretty much consistently gotten really good play out of Josh Sweat because, going into this offseason, they're going to have an opportunity to say, hey, do we give Derek Barnett that contract? Do we pay him? Is that something that we have to do? Well, in a team that looks like they're going to have to shed some salary cap here to get, back into where they need to be, the difference of paying, Josh Sweat $1.5 million or paying Derek Barnett 10, 11 million, that's a big difference. And if you're getting the play out of Josh Sweat you're getting right now, that at least gives you the opportunity to say, hey, if we have to cut cost and Derek Barnett's the one that has to go, at least we know we're not going to be downgrading the play because we know Josh Sweat can kind of step up and give us that type of play that we need. And so they're getting production, but they're also getting it from people who they need to get it from. And I think that's a big thing here with the Eagles, which, that's something that, you're not always going to be able to rely on, an undrafted free agent or a late pick to be the hero. But when you've got both your, big ticket free agent and your mid-round draft pick producing, like those are the kinds of things that this team needed to kind of get them back on track and saying, hey, we can get this production we need to stay on track and get where we need to be. And so that right there, again, is a big positive. And the offensive line of the Arizona Cardinals is not very good. So I would expect them to continue to eat in that way. If they can kind of keep pushing there, I think they can do it. It's just about, again, the back end now. This is where they really come into play because Kyler will make quick decisions with the football that Taysom Hill wasn't going to do so with. So Alex Singleton filling up the stat sheet. That's great. We're going to need you to make some of those tackles, closer to the line of scrimmage, not necessarily just, letting guys pick up 7-8 yards, like a lot of those tackles kind of were. We want to make sure that those are the kind of cases that you're going to get going forward because that's what you're going to need to stop a team like Arizona with such a potent offense.
They're going to desperately need to have Darius Slay back to at least keep Hopkins in the building. I'm looking at their roster. Roby Coleman, do you think he can hang with DeAndre Hopkins?
No.
You've got.
I don't even know if Darius Slay can hang with DeAndre Hopkins. So
he can keep him in the building is all I'm saying. I didn't say he's going to dominate him.
That's why every person down that list afterwards is just going to be a huge question mark.
Wow, Jalen Mills would be lost after the first yard marker. You know, I mean, he's a tough guy. I would like to have if they're at first and goal from the 5. I like Jalen Mills in that situation because it's not a speed thing. It's a tough thing. You know what I mean? Jalen Mills is my guy in the red zone against him because it's not a burner thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
But if you're going to get into the track meet, you got to have Darius Slay there to at least keep him honest. And he did not practice today. The injury report, and we're expecting Dr. McMillan here anytime. In the Eagles injury report for Wednesday, Darius Slay did not practice at all. The Fletcher Cox had the day off, but he's okay. Jack Driscoll did not practice because of an ankle, but limited participation. We did have T.J. Edwards in there. They do need him. When you're chomping at the bit for your mediocre linebacker to make it back, that's saying something.
Yeah.
T.J. Edwards, Rudy Ford did practice a little bit. Malik Jackson did, but he's in a concussion protocol. But the fact that he's out there practicing at all, they need all hands on deck. And so Josh Sweat said after the game that he got banged a little bit, but he's going to play. He already said. So that he was after the game. So the guy that it's Rodney McLeod. He's not the second coming of Brian Dawkins, but he is a serviceable safety, and he is going to be missed for the rest of the season. There is no question about it. Who will step up? Avonte Maddox is going to be out this week. Say what you want about him, but he was your starter, and he was a starter for a reason. So they have Roby Coleman is going to have to take over that spot. And
you're also going to see a lot of names that you haven't seen before in an Eagles uniform. It's going to be like 2018. We see Clavon LeBlanc out there. He's people that you never heard of until now.
Yeah. Kayvon Wallace.
Yeah. I mean, you got DeAndre Hopkins, and obviously he's the big name there. But I mean, the rest of that receiving core is no slouches. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald is out there still. Christian Kirk is out there still. Keyshawn Johnson, who kind of gives him at least a different ability of speed, and he can kind of high point the ball at the catch point. Max Williams is not necessarily like this big ticket name from the tight end spot, but he's at least a guy who can do some damage in the red zone. And so from those safeties, whoever's filling in on the McLeod role or who's going to be covering him from the linebacker role, they're all guys who are going to have their hands full, and they're going to have to make sure that they're able to do a serviceable job. I mean, as it looks like, the Doc is going to be joining us here. He kind of caught firsthand there with that Giants game last week of how potent that Arizona offense can kind of be when you don't have a defense that's set up to kind of stop it.
Dr. McMillan, how you doing?
Guys, how we doing? Happy holidays.
All right. And the Dr. McMillan from Virtua Health Systems of South Jersey. And so what did you think about your Giants last week? Your starting quarterback comes back and manages 7 stinking points right after his backup made the upset of the month.
Certainly it was a big letdown. You go into this, you see Daniel Jones is coming back. You think he's healthy enough to produce the way, he was in the games leading up to that during that 5-game win streak. And he just looked out of sorts. Couldn't scramble, and again, a lot of his game is the ability to move around the pocket or even run. Just wasn't himself, and you kept waiting for them to sort of kick it into gear against the Cardinals, who've been up and down this year, and really they just couldn't find a way to execute.
And he may be out this week. He's got a bad ankle. He did limited participation today, but maybe they're better off with Colt McCoy. When
healthy, I'll take Daniel Jones any day of the week. But right now, it's all hands on deck.
Yeah. So the Eagles got some really horrible news during the game last week. Rodney McLeod with an ACL. He's 30 years old now. What is he gonna? He's out for the year. What is his path back going to be like for a 30-year-old?
Yeah, listen, we've talked about this before. It's tough for anyone to come back from an ACL, but yet it's probably the most common injury we see coming back. At his position, it's a little bit tougher because even with the best of guys that come back, you're looking at 12 to 14 months to be fully explosive again. He'll be back and probably ready to go towards the end of camp or the beginning of the season, but is it going to be the Rodney McLeod that he needs to be effective? And you can talk about how effective he was now, in entering age 30 season. So it's going to be a tough road back. I'm sure he'll come back. I'm sure he'll try to play and play to the level that he was before, but I don't know that next year is the year that you see him back to where he needs to be.
And Darius Slay, go ahead.
I was going to say, the rest of the cornerback room doesn't look, or secondary room doesn't look too great either. You were about to talk about Darius Slay and the concussion protocol, and then you've also still got Avonte Maddox, who looks like he picked up himself a knee injury that's going to leave him out for a couple of weeks. Not quite the end of the season diagnosis as McLeod got, but still something that's going to hamper him. What kind of knee injury do you expect there for Avonte Maddox and the recovery process for something like that?
Yeah, I didn't catch the diagnosis. If you guys caught that or not, I just read it as unspecified knee injury. Do you know anything different, Al or Matt?
Just a knee injury. That's all.
Yeah,
and if he's still listed as not being out for the year, I would think it can't be a tear, right? It's got to be some kind of sprain.
Correct. Yeah, so that was my point. So generally, when you have a guy who's not practicing and is listed week to week, you're thinking along the lines of an MCL sprain, some sort of knee contusion, or some other trauma to the knee that can heal rather quickly. And really, you're seeing how he bounces back day to day, week to week.
Yeah. TJ Edwards did do some light practicing today. I'm sure none of it was outside on the field. It was all in their bubble. But with a hamstring, what does that tell you when you see a guy? At least he's out there to go in some drills and things like that with a bad hamstring.
So the recovery coming back from a hamstring injury, again, you want to make sure that they're able to do straight ahead activities first. And that's probably what they're testing now is how does he do, at intermediate speed, 50, 60% speed going straight ahead, and how does he recover tomorrow? And if he's able to bounce back and feel pretty good, then you're going to look at, ramping that up and then adding some agility in. And, it's anyone's guess with a hamstring. We've talked about this before. They're finicky. So it is certainly a day by day process.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, turning away a little bit from the Eagles, there was some injury news that came out today that I think took at least Twitter by storm because everyone was kind of wondering, hey, what the heck is this? But center from the Detroit Lions, Frank Ragnow, found a way to fracture his throat. What exactly kind of injury is that? And what kind of recovery process could there even be for something like that?
So there's a cartilage called the hyoid bone, which is Adam's apple, in some people, that is breakable, just like cartilage between the ribs and like any other, sort of bone or piece of cartilage. It takes time for it to heal. I don't know how we did that. I'm just hearing about it now, so I don't know much more than that. But it's certainly it's scary because think about everything you need to do is swallow, all the things that go along with that. So my guess is he's going to be out for some time with that.
Wow. And A.Q. Shipley, another center in the NFL, was told he should retire. He was with the Patriots, and he had a neck injury. And when you hear that people are telling somebody to retire, what do you normally see? Some kind of a fracture up there, or when you see a player has been around as long as he has, over a dozen years?
Yeah, so it's a couple of different injuries, and again, not knowing his exact medical record, but spinal stenosis is the big one that you hear about. It's what ended Cooper Manning's career before it started. From the Manning family, a couple other players that have had that as well. If there is an acute fracture, they tend to heal, so it makes me think that maybe if it's along the lines of a fracture, that he has something that's putting pressure on a nerve that's not safe for him to come back and play. But spinal stenosis is usually the thing that we see the most in the upper neck.
Wow. And then from a sports psychology situation, what are the Eagles dealing with these two quarterbacks? You have the young up-and-coming guy that has an incredible college career, won a national title, went to the Final Four in college football. All 4 years he was there. Carson Wentz was a 1AA quarterback who was injured most of his senior year, did come in and win a title for them, but I mean, from a psychology standpoint, and can that transfer? Having a good mental framework does help you with avoiding injuries, doesn't it? What kind of a tightrope is Doug Peterson and the Eagles going with these two?
I was starting with the players, Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, two separate individuals, but both have experience sort of overcoming different things. Think about Jalen Hurts when he was replaced by Tua in the national championship, and he had to learn to sort of, deal with his pride and move on to Oklahoma. And so he knows what it's like to be replaced, and now he's the guy doing the replacing. Where I think it gets sort of dicey is, what happens leading into the offseason. We've talked about this before. Carson Wentz, man of faith, so he's certainly, I'm sure, leaning on that right now and thinking this is going to work out for the best. But how the Eagles handle this, and making a clear decision right away by Doug Peterson to say Jalen's going to play next week and be the starter, takes the guesswork out each week, takes the questions out from the media. So at some point you got to wonder if they're going to say, look, we're going to ride Jalen the rest of the season. That way the question doesn't get asked anymore. And then we'll go into the off season, and the coaching staff, if they're still the same coaching staff, will make the decision on who's going to be our quarterback in 2021. What
does stress do, anxiety, when it comes to overall health? Not just for an athlete, but for people in general. But at that level, with the money that's involved, and an entire city is staring at you, and you have millions of people can now tell you what they think of you on social media. What does stress do to the human body?
Yeah, so I mean, it wears you down, quite frankly, Al. I mean, it's something where it becomes all consuming, even for those that are able to block out sort of external factors. It's something you wake up in the morning, it's like a weight on your shoulders, and it's there all day, all night. You lose sometimes the ability to experience the joy that goes with your day in and day out, livelihood. Look, at the end of the day, these guys have a lot of reason for joy. They're quarterbacks in the NFL. They have the ability to say that they're one of 64 guys that are first or second string in the NFL, which is great, but it's different, especially when you're expected to be the guy, and that's not necessarily the case right now.
And we talked about this with Carson, with that chiropractor who was on a couple of weeks ago, is that I think you may have brought it up, that he had gone from trying to prove himself as a 1AA quarterback coming in here. He did that. And then he gets knocked out, and a guy comes in, Nick Foles, wins the Super Bowl. Then he has to come back the next year, try to fight off the knee injury. Then he breaks his back halfway through the season. Foles comes in again and saves the season. And he's coming back a third year, right? And overcome all these injuries. And now he's got another challenge like this. I can't imagine if that doesn't impact his back injuries, his knee problems, things like that, the sheer mental aspect of it. Can that be a factor?
Sure. There's two ways to look at it, though. The other way to look at it, Al, is quite simply, look, he's used to having someone come in and, share the spotlight with him, and then he regains it back, right? So he knows how to handle this. He knows how to answer the questions, and he knows how to bounce back. Look, he's a competitor, and he's young, and he didn't get this far by accident. So I think everyone's looking at this as a mental reprieve, get through the rest of the season, go into the offseason, correct whatever may ail you, and then come back in 2021 and fight for the starting job, if not reclaim it.
Well, we'll ask you one quick question about the Giants, and we'll let you go. The Giants literally control their own path. What are your thoughts? Because if they lose this week, they're pretty much out. Because if the Eagles win, then it opens up a huge door for them. Washington may now be missing Alex Smith. He's hurt and didn't practice today. And he hasn't been playing very well lately anyway. But what are your thoughts? Do you think the Giants are going to pull it out? They have some tough opponents.
As a fan, you want them to. They certainly have a tough road. I mean, you take Dallas out of the equation just for a second. You still got Cleveland and you got the Ravens. It's not an easy road. So I'll say that if they make the playoffs, they earned it. At the same time, no one really sees Washington ripping off 3 straight, or the Eagles for that matter. So, I mean, I think it's going to be week by week, emotional roller coaster, and I hope they make it. I don't know that they will. I have my doubts that they're going to be able to go 2-1 down the stretch, but you just got to win one game at a time.
All right. Well, listen, Dr. McMillan, thanks for being a guest, and it was nice seeing you actually on the screen. And but Dr. Sean McMillan is the Chief of Orthopedics and Director of Orthopedic Sports Medicine at Virtual Health Systems of Burlington County and Cherry Hill. Dr. McMillan is also an assistant professor of orthopedic surgery at Rowan University. And can you tell folks out there how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we're seeing patients in person and on telehealth. And tomorrow, if it snows too much, we'll be seeing people on telehealth as well. The best way to reach us is our main number, 856-470-9029.
All right, Doc. Thanks so much for joining us on Football Stories Facebook Live.
Thanks,
from
guys.
Our homes. All right. And where did Matt go? I can't hear you.
I don't know. I'm not really sure where he went off there.
Let me see if I can text
Maybe
him.
he lost a connection. Maybe, hopefully, I know they said some places in the area for those who are joining us at home. And if you haven't looked outside your window, if you're in the, the tri-state area, there is a lot of snow out there. And I know the winds were supposed to kick up. So
I'm
I hope
him right now. See,
internet
folks, I'm texting Matt Stanley right now. And seeing if he is if he's still going to come back, and we're still expecting Rock Hoffman to join us. But in the
Rock soon.
But the they have the Arizona Cardinals have a lot of offense, except they don't have like we were saying earlier, they don't have that great offensive line. That's something that they can exploit. And you can get by with mediocre D-backs if your offensive line is giving, and this, right? You can get by with mediocre D-backs if your line is putting tremendous pressure on the quarterback, even if it's an elusive guy like Kyler Murray.
It's gonna put a lot of pressure on the D line one way or the other. If it's D backs, if it's the linebackers were never anything to write home about to begin with. A lot of them have stepped up over the last few weeks. But this is going to be tough. It's going to be tough here. Actually, I think Matt's back. Let me throw him back in there.
There we go.
There we go.
There
he is.
Yeah, the power outage, right?
Old house. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're getting pretty mangled here by the snowstorm, and the wind is whipping.
That's exactly what I was saying. I'm like, because I know they said, especially in your area, the wind is supposed to really pick up
Yeah, that was kind of. I'm upstairs in my loft area where I'm broadcasting from, and I have one of those lights where like you can kind of dim it up and down, and it like went like dim down, dim up, dim down, dim up, and then everything just went black, and I was like, what the heck is going on right now? So at first I got kicked out. I thought it was something that happened here with the stream, and then nope, stream's a-okay. That was on my end. So we're all good though. Back in now. So.
Well, we were saying that you can get by with some mediocre D-backs if your defensive line is putting tremendous pressure on, and even if it's Kyler Murray, I would think.
I mean, you definitely can. I think the thing too with Kyler Murray, he's a quarterback who, when he has time and he has space, he's deadly, right? He's somebody who he's gone to that momentum figure, right? Like if things are kind of rolling right for him, he's able to kind of keep that going and kind of put up a lot of points and run with it. But we've also seen from Kyler Murray is he's a small quarterback. If you get in his face and you hit him and you knock him down a few times and you make him, not roll out of the pocket for space purposes, but roll out of the pocket because he's running for his life, he is prone to making some mistakes. He's not this, Patrick Mahomesian kind of figure who under pressure, it just performs just as well as he does, without, the pass rush. So it's a big deal for that front of it. And I think, if the defensive line comes to play, and they're able to push Kyler Murray around, which they should be able to push that offensive line around. And so, by product of that, should be able to get to Kyler Murray at least a few times and make him second guess some of these long forming setups that are kind of a staple of the Cliff Kingsbury offense. All of those things are definitely are parts that are kind of, I guess you would say, like feathers in the cap of the Eagles there on the defensive front, and what they're trying to accomplish. The other part of it, though, too, is just with DeAndre Hopkins, that's kind of been the difference maker for Arizona this year is when there is a lot of pressure and things are kind of crumbling, Kyler has a confidence in D-Hop to be able to throw the ball up to him and kind of make something happen. And so it's that two-part effort. It's consistent, constant pressure, making Kyler Murray second-guess himself, and then on those plays, just not losing sight of where DeAndre Hopkins is on the field, because that's where he's going to go with the ball as soon as that pressure does get into his lap.
Yeah, but and you have to also realize the Arizona Cardinals would be 6-7 if it weren't for that miracle throw to DeAndre Hopkins at the end of the game against was Buffalo, right? And so they're not a great team. This is not a great team. And Kyler Murray has his deficiencies. He's small, but he's a human, video game. I mean, he's amazing. But he makes mistakes. He's thrown 10 interceptions this year. And if you do put pressure on him, he will make those mistakes. They've turned the ball over 15 times, but they've also gotten 18 turnovers. So their defense creates turnovers. Hassan Reddick from Temple.
He's having a great season. I mean, he had 5 sacks
in one game?
I think last week against the Giants, he stuffed the stat sheet. I mean, it was an incredible effort what he would do to put forward in that game. I think it was 5 sacks.
He had let's see, I'll tell you in a second. Hassan Reddick had a career high in sacks, 5.
Yeah.
And 3 forced fumbles last week. 3 forced fumbles and 5 sacks. That's Defensive Player of the Year numbers for one game, right?
100%.
And
I actually will put you over the stat hill in one game than somebody could do all season long.
Yeah, I mean, you wonder why he didn't just leave Colt McCoy in there one more week. I mean, what did you have to lose? I mean, 'cause you got crushed in that game. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't look good for them this week. But we'll talk about that when we go through the NFL. But it's a winnable game. They have a winnable game here, and but they're going to have to make do. They're going to have to find a way. If Darius Slay can't play, they're going to have to find a way. That secondary is going to have to step up, and that's going to be the key to the whole thing. Is keeping DeAndre Hopkins. He has disappeared, hasn't he? At times during the season. I mean, last week he was tremendous against a Giants team that's, not very good. and he had 9 catches, I believe, last week, right? And for 136 yards. So he has 5 games with 100 yards receiving, but he has games where he kind of fades away. But they're hoping that happens, I would think, on Sunday. And Larry Fitzgerald was missing maybe some of those games. So now when you have Larry Fitzgerald and him, it's hard to take him out of a game, because then if you do that, you try to take him out of the game, they're just going to go to Fitzgerald and some of the other great receivers that they have. Dan Arnold had 4 receptions, and he's got last week, and so he's they have a lot of weapons, but they have a lot of weaknesses. An offensive line that can be had, and a defense that, like Al was saying earlier, that Hassan Reddick is a great player, but is that a great defense? I would think not.
I wouldn't consider them to be a great defense by any stretch of the imagination. I do think that they have, like you said, along with Hassan Reddick, they do have some great players on that defensive side of the ball. Isaiah Simmons is one who they got in the draft, who's made a couple nice splash plays for them. They obviously have like Murphy out there on the back end in the cornerback room, who's got some good ability there to kind of make some big type plays for them. Old friend, Jordan Hicks in the middle of the field, making some big plays. He's been a big pickup for them. Budda Baker, who's a fantastic free safety, but they do have weak spots on their line. I mean, besides the incredible effort that you saw from Hassan Reddick last week, I mean, that's not typical of that defense to not only just rush the passer in that capacity, but to make them lose the ball, to force that many fumbles. That's not the type of defense that they really are. So I think, again, this is a team that you can make some hay on. You can go out there and kind of build on some stuff for them. Chandler Jones being on the IR is obviously a big loss for them in this type of game, because when you're talking about containing a guy like Jalen Hurts, having somebody like Chandler Jones, who's almost equally as athletic from the defensive side of the ball, to be able to kind of keep that kind of player in check, that's not going to be the case come Sunday. So again, very winnable game for Philadelphia if they play the way that they played last week, and that whole thing where it's the league kind of slow to kind of catch up to some tape on Jalen Hurts. Then yeah, it is a very winnable game. I'm more so eager to see if they can kind of deal with no big explosive plays, because that's the thing that I think was missing from the Eagles last week. Obviously the one big explosive play they had was the 82-yard run from Miles Sanders, but are they able to kind of do this again and beat a team like Arizona, who for the most part has their full complement of offensive players to be able to start to put up some points here against the Eagles? Can they make do with Jalen Hurts not necessarily being a big play machine from the quarterback position in the passing game? That's the big difference I think that we're going to have to see, is we're going to have to see that one pass that went to Jalen Reagor that was just outside of his fingertips, that I do think Reagor should have probably been able to dive for, maybe could have made a catch on it, but the ball wasn't necessarily a perfect ball, but Jalen Hurts did have pretty much all the time in the world to deliver it. We got to see if given a clean pocket and a downfield throw, can Jalen Hurts hit those throws? I think that'll be the difference in a game like this against Arizona.
All right.
Yeah,
so
and
go ahead.
Arizona is also a team that has been this whole year up and down. They have lost to some teams that they probably shouldn't have, and they probably beat a team or two that maybe they normally wouldn't have. So, I mean, it depends what Cardinals team you get. Now, you got both teams back up against the wall. If they're both looking for a playoff push, they both need this win. You could probably say the Cardinals need to win more because the Eagles, the chance of making a run to the Super Bowl is a lot slimmer. But ultimately, you got a resurgence of an Eagles team on top of a Cardinals team who's in a tough division, on top of a fact that they want to stay, in that wild card playoff hunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting because they are the 7th seed, right?
Yes,
they're the last, and they're 7-6. The Vikings are right after them, right at number 8.
Pulling it up
the
right
Minnesota
now.
Vikings.
I'm pulling up right now.
and that would make them the number 8. They're the 8th seed with a losing record. And if they're 7-6, and if the Eagles win out and there's 7, 8, and 1, does that last wild card spot even creep into the conversation for the Eagles?
So right now, you got the 1 and 2 spots of the Packers, Saints, 3 and 4 with the Rams and the Reds, or the Washington football team.
Yeah.
And then 5 is Seattle, 6 is the Bucks, and Cardinals are sitting at that 7th seed. And then the bubble at 8 is the Vikings.
At 6 and 7.
Yep.
And who's after them? Does it say?
You got the Bears sitting at 6 and 7 as well at 9.
The
Lions actually at 10 right now. And the 49ers.
What's their record?
5 and 8. Them and the Niners both have a 5 and 8 record.
Okay.
And the Niners are heading up against the Cowboys this week. And then the Giants, we're sitting at number 13 right now. So pretty much it's a division win or nothing for us.
All right. Well, I'm just saying that the 7th seed could end up having a losing record. It's possible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we'll see. But we're going to do the entire NFL. I did want to ask you real quick, just seeing more college games getting canceled all over the place for COVID. And a bowl game's already been canceled for the COVID. Rock was saying on Saturday night that why not just name who the Final Four is and just let the rest of it go. Do you think they should just stop this at some point? Because there's the universities in general, colleges in general are being blamed for the insane amount of cases that have been made it off the charts here in the United States, the amount of people who have been infected. So do you think that they should just let this go and just play the Final Four if you have to play it with no spectators at all?
It's really tough. It's really tough for me to say so, just in general, because I mean, there's teams out there like the Cincinnati Bearcats who are having a fantastic season. BYU, who has, one loss, on the season. And there's some teams out there who are going to want to play maybe in some bowl games, who maybe have earned an opportunity, but have played at these smaller schools where they're never going to be recognized, even if they were to win out as a Final Four team. And so I know it's been the year from hell, basically, for everybody in America, especially for sports in general, because of the way that logistically it has to operate. And so it's hard for me to say that, but it's one of those things to where it's like, even if some of these bowl games probably do deserve some asterisks on them, right? I mean, Virginia Tech is not going to be playing in a bowl game. They have the longest bowl game streak of any team in FBS, Division I football, and it's not because they didn't earn a bowl spot. It's because they are opting out from playing any kind of games that way, right? So there are some really tough ones there, but it's really tough to take the opportunity away from a kid once you've given it to them, right? All the conversation for if this year should have even gone on, I think was all valid. I think there was a push there from a lot of people or a lot of players to say we want to play the whole we want to play movement. And now we're getting the fallback from that, which is every team that has basically been given an opportunity to say, hey, do you want to play in a bowl game or do you just want to go home, has pretty much chosen we just want to go home. And so I think the kids are kind of dictating that on their own now, like they did to kind of push play back into the fold. But I think it's one of those things you can't just strip it away from them. It has to kind of be in the way that it's been now, where these kids have basically opted to say, hey, we are just not worth it. We want to go home. We want to see our families. We want to kind of be normal, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds out there. We're not, Clemson. We're not Notre Dame. We're not none of these teams that really have anything to really play for right this second. And so they're opting to kind of go that route. But I mean, it is a good question to kind of propose there, because like I said, the way that this whole thing has kind of gone on has kind of led you to believe, hey, besides the Alabamas, the Clemsons, the powerhouse schools that always had a chance to win a national championship, what have any of those other teams really gotten out of the season?
Not much.
Yeah.
And so all right, we'll take a break. We'll come back and do the NFL for this week.
Our sponsor, Nancy Kowalik, broker-owner at Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Groups, says her market in South Jersey experiencing a seller's market. Homes are selling for 100% of asking price or more, and they're selling fast. Homes are receiving multiple offers, which turn into bidding wars as soon as they premiere on the first open house. Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group is the #1 real estate brokerage in South Jersey. Their homes sell 46% faster, and sale prices are nearly 3% higher than competing brokerage listings, according to the 2019 Bright MLS statistics. If you're looking to sell your home fast and for top dollar, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562. You can visit online at southjerseyteam.com. And if you're thinking about buying a home, Nancy's team of highly trained professionals are standing by to help you find that perfect home, and they're experts in the field, whether it's a buyer's or seller's market. Call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group at 856-478-6562 and start packing.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Need new carpet or flooring? We know. You don't want to pay too much. You want fast, reliable service, a great installation, and be able to choose from a huge selection. Well then, never pay store prices again. Shop at home and save with Smart Carpet and Flooring. Whether you need new hardwood flooring, vinyl flooring, carpet, or tile, Smart Carpet mobile showrooms have all the brands you want and all at great prices. Your time is valuable, and we make it easy for you to get the new floor you want. We even move your furniture. So if you're ready for a new floor from Armstrong, Shaw, Mohawk, Congolium, Bruce, and more, call Smart Carpet and Flooring today at 1-800-526-7847. That's 1-800-526-7847. Smart Carpet and Flooring. Never pay store prices again.
1-800-526-RUGS.
Colonial Marble and Granite. We've revolutionized the way you buy your granite countertops. Unbeatable prices. Visit us online at colonialmarble.net.
And welcome back here to Football Stories, the radio show, live on Facebook, on YouTube, and from our homes. I am Matt Santalari. We have Al Thompson, our editor-in-chief of Football Stories, the magazine, our host here of the radio program, and we got Big Al Zafiri chiming in here in the co-host role, waving to the masses, and producing our show as always. Before we get to the last half of our show with our football pick, I'm just going to throw it over to Al Thompson for a quick word from our sponsor.
Yeah, I want to talk to you a little bit about South Jersey Luxury. Work and play from home, surrounded in luxury and privacy in a premier South Jersey luxury home listed by Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. These are dream houses that have it all, designed with luxury and entertaining in mind, with recreation areas, home offices, and backyard oases with in-ground pools, hot tubs, and more. There's a gorgeous 5,700 square foot Mediterranean villa, which boasts a first floor master bedroom suite, plus a custom bar, finished basement with a theater room, a gym, in-ground pool, and spa solar panels, all on 7.88 private acres. That's an incredible home. Dressed to Impress is a 5,300 square foot French chateau with a gentleman's game room, fully finished walkout basement with temperature-controlled wine cellar, huge custom deck, in-ground pool, and spa with 3 private acres. There's also custom ranch homes offering over 4,000 square foot of luxury, one of which has its own putting green. Conveniently located within 30 minutes of Philadelphia and less than 2 hours to downtown Manhattan. For more information, call Nancy Kowalik Real Estate Group. Her number is 856-478-6562, or go to their website at southjerseyteam.com. And do you guys want to make a prediction about the Eagles game for Sunday? Maybe you don't really want to, but
you go ahead, Al.
I don't know. This is a tough one. I still haven't seen enough of anybody of Jalen Hurts, but I mean, you gotta feel that they're feeling confident. You know, the loss. It's gonna be really tough with that secondary being as banged up as it is. You know what? I haven't picked the Eagles in a while, so I'm going to pick the Eagles. It's going to be a tight game. I'm going to go 27-24 Eagles.
There you go. I think when you're looking at it here, I kind of feel the same way as you, Al. I mean, there's a certain air of optimism that at least exists within this team. And even with the players that are going to be missing, potentially missing Darius Slay for this game as well, there is some things that kind of point in the direction to kind of say, hey, maybe I don't feel too good about this. But, we just went into last week where they were starting a rookie quarterback with a week's worth of work, basically, against the number 2 defense in the league. And he was able to go out there and do what he did. And so I'm going to pick the Eagles in this game too. I think there's an opportunity for them to go out there and get an upset win, keep the dream alive. I'm not sure if the Eagles are going to win the NFC East or kind of win out if this is going to be the case. But I think for 2 weeks in a row, the way that the feeling around Philadelphia has kind of been on the backs of Jalen Hurts and Doug Peterson getting this offense back on track, I think it all deserves a big praise. I just hope that we see Jalen Reagor out there for punt return duty instead of Greg Ward, because that's the one big difference I think that'll happen in this game is special teams. Can't be missing field goals like he did. The 22-yard chip shot miss is absolutely brutal. Can't have those kind of things happen against a team like Arizona here. I think they kind of get all of that right. Special teams comes back strong with a nice little Jalen Reagor return. I don't know if it's going to be a touchdown return, but I have a feeling he's going to get a punt return that's going to put them in a good spot. And that's going to be the difference maker in this game. They win a very close one-possession game. I'm going to say 24-20.
Well, the thing with Jake Elliott was, the media kicking contest for Santander Bank a couple of years ago. There were better kicks than that one. That was so bad. I mean, that was from the 2-yard line. That's stunning that he missed that. And but I don't think he will again. I think he'll come out there and he'll play well. And they just played like a different team last week, and I believe they were able to carry that over. And I think there's something about with Carson on the sideline. This coach seems to feel and call a game in a freer fashion. I think the defense has played well for the last 5-6 weeks overall, well enough to win games, and they did that on Sunday. So I think that they get a special touchdown somewhere. I agree with you about the Jalen Reagor thing. I was like, after what he did the week before, why are you keep trotting Ward out there? It's like, wow. So maybe there was something. He may have been banged up a little bit. Maybe Reagor was had a little tweak in his feet or something, but he did okay in the game. Let me see. Reagor had 2 catches for 46 yards, a 39-yarder was his longest. So they really didn't pump the ball to him last week. So maybe there was something going on with his feet or something. But I think if they get him out there, he will have a good return. So I'm going to pick the Eagles. If they find 24 points like they did last week, they win the game. So I'll take the Eagles in a close game. The first game up is going to be this week. The Los Angeles Chargers are at the Las Vegas Raiders, where they got embarrassed, 44 points put on them last week by Indianapolis. What's gone on wrong with the Raiders? Because the Chargers came back and won, beat Atlanta last week. So what's wrong with the Raiders? And I'm gonna take that they continue to fall. They were lucky to get by the Jets the week before, and I think the Chargers take advantage of it. And I'm going to take the Chargers over the Raiders.
What's wrong with the Raiders? There's a lot of questions there. This is a team that consistency is the big key for them. They just cannot figure it out. You would expect them to kind of get a boost back with Jacobs kind of being a game time decision and going out there and playing for them, that they would have been able to kind of put up a better effort than they did last week. I think that they're going to be able to go out there and win this game against the Chargers this week. But it's a very Jekyll and Hyde style team with the Raiders, and I'm not picking them to win any playoff games if they get there.
Al?
Oh, yeah. This is another tough one because I've rode the Chargers and they let me down. Now the Raiders are letting me down. So it's like I don't know who's going to let me down more in this one. I guess the only upside is it's at home for the Raiders. So that's going to be my tipping of the scale. Even though there's no home field advantage in this situation, I'm going to go Raiders.
All right. The Buffalo Bills are at the Denver Broncos. The Buffalo Bills came up with a big win over Pittsburgh, showing that they could be next they can hang. People are saying, could they actually beat Kansas City in the AFC playoffs? And when you're having those kind of conversations, that says something, because I think Pittsburgh is fading. But they're going to go to Denver and Drew Lock, and there's no way that the Bills blow this at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the Buffalo Bills are a complete football team. They kind of remind me of Tennessee Titans from last year, except for their record is much better than Tennessee was at this point because they've just been more consistent. They're getting great play out of Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs has been every bit worth that first-round draft pick they traded for him. And so I think they go out there and they get a win in Denver as well.
Yeah, Bills all the way on this one. There's really not much to say on it.
All right, the Carolina Panthers coming off a 32-27 loss against Denver will be facing the Green Bay Packers, who are going to want to hold on to that number 1 seed, and they do. I don't think there's anything stopping the Panthers. I think the Packers. I think that the Packers will be the number 1 seed going into the playoffs, but they win handily tomorrow against Carolina.
Yeah, like you said, they have the number 1 seed. There's no reason why they're going to give it up. Looks like Christian McCaffrey will again not play in this game for Carolina. That would be the only hope they would have to kind of beat a team like the Packers, and that's not happening, so the Packers all the way.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Packers on this one. I think it'll be a little closer than you think, but still not going to be a win.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers looked good against the Minnesota Vikings, knocking off Minnesota 26-14. They're going to be at the Atlanta Falcons, who lost a close game to the LA Chargers. There's some stats out there that Minnesota put no pressure on Brady at all in this game, and when you don't do that, he just picks you apart, and he did. And so if that's the same thing, the Falcons have found ways to lose. And I don't think they do tomorrow, but I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have some big problems, because if somebody puts pressure on Brady even in the first round of the playoffs, they're done. But tomorrow, Tampa Bay win and move to 9-5.
Yeah, I got Tampa Bay in this game too. Atlanta just is, they're playing better since they fired their coach, but they're still a kind of directionless football team. And so I think that just kind of gives a struggling Buccaneers team that has had to find some dramatic ways to win games of late, an ability to go out there and win a pretty easy one.
Yeah, Tampa Bay all the way.
The Jacksonville Jaguars at the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore, that was an epic game.
Yeah.
One of the best football games of the year, if not the best football game overall of the year. It's a shame it had to end on such a clownish play where they sent thousands to Gamblers Anonymous. I don't know what the spread was, but people were talking about how that screwed up the spread. I don't know if anybody knows what the spread was in that game.
Well, the spread, the basically a lot of people got it at 6, but then some people had to get it at 6.5, and so that was basically the marker there on the game. So some people lost it, and just because of some really bad hook and laddering from the Cleveland Browns.
Worst hook and ladder I've ever seen.
It was really bad. But I agree with you, though. For the entire game, it probably was the game of the year, in my opinion, especially watching two teams, Baltimore, a team that has struggled majority of the year, try to find its way back, and a team like Cleveland trying to prove, hey, our record is not a mirage. We do belong here with some of these other good teams. That was just a fantastic dueling effort from two quarterbacks who were just trying to will their team to a win. But against Jacksonville, Lamar's not going to have to will anything. He's just going to walk out there and get a W.
Yeah, same here. Baltimore all the way.
Yep.
Really extrapolating a lot of facts there to our fans here.
Yeah. Sorry, he
what
said
everything.
everything.
A rock. The San Francisco 49ers are at the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys crushed Cincinnati last week 30-7, and the 49ers lost 23-15. These are two terrible teams. 49ers are a bad team, so I'm going to go with the rock rule. And you don't take bad teams on the road, even though the home team is a bad team. And I think the Cowboys beat the 49ers.
Yeah, I got the Cowboys in this game too. I can't remember two marquee franchises in two bad positions like this playing each other. And so again, I agree with you. Home team kind of gets the tiebreaker between the two of them.
I'm going to go with the Niners. Dallas is just so up and down. They've been playing better. I don't know. I think 49ers, they got more fight in them. They're getting some guys back, but I know it's not going to be a fun game to watch. But I think ultimately the Niners will peel it out in the end.
All right. We have the Houston Texans are at the Indianapolis Colts. We were right. The Texans are playing out the string. They got clobbered by Chicago, a bad Chicago team, 36-7. The Colts knocked off Las Vegas, 44-27, and the win streak continues for Frank Reich and Phillip Rivers, and they move to 10-4 on the season.
Yeah, I mean, if Deshaun Watson and the Texans couldn't get up to play a really bad Chicago team last week, I can't see them getting up to play a very good Indianapolis Colts team this week. I know it's a divisional matchup, but it doesn't really matter to me. I think the Colts win big.
Yeah, I'm Colts all the way on this one. It's they have a lot to play for. I'm going to go with the Colts. I really do like the Colts team, even though they can be a little up and down.
The New England Patriots, coming off their 24-3 loss to the LA Rams, are going to go to Miami, who lost a tough game to the Kansas City Chiefs, 33-27. Miami is still in the conversation for the playoffs, and so I think that they seize the opportunity and bury the Patriots.
So I'm going to pick the Patriots in this game only because I think it's the reverse factor of, them not having Brady and him having the struggles playing in a warmer climate. I think the Patriots this week, I mean, this was a big one for them. Belichick had to answer a lot of questions on why he's not turning the keys over to Jared Stidham or trying out some of the young players. Very similar questions that were kind of posed here in Philadelphia. And I think a big reason is because he sees some of these games as an ability to play kind of spoiler. And if they can kind of win against Miami and kind of reverse some of that stuff that they had bad luck down there over the last couple of years, even though the record's not going to look good at the end of the year and they're going to miss the playoffs for sure, this will be some bit of positivity for them to kind of ride out the storm.
No, I'm going Dolphins. Cam Newton sucks.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That's a stretch there, Matt. But I'll take it because we have opposite sides of a chance to catch up.
That's it.
Not. The Chicago Bears are at the Minnesota Vikings, both at 6-7. I'm going to go with the home team with the better quarterback. Kirk Cousins is a little bit better than Mitchell Trubisky, and they're both fighting, trying to hang in there to steal that 7th spot. So I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings.
Hey, I don't know about better quarterback. Mitch Trubisky looked incredible the other day. I mean, he was awesome out there. Kind of a guy rejuvenated.
A bad team. Against a really bad team.
It is 100%. I was just kind of joking. But for the most part, hey, when you're Mitchell Trubisky, that's really all you have to hang your hat on.
36 points is 36 points in an NFL game.
That's it. But I agree with you there. I think Minnesota is just the better team to put together. And when you're talking about just having to kind of pick them, I'm going to go
Dalvin Cook
at home. Yeah.
And they have Dalvin Cook. And
yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings as well. But I wouldn't be surprised. Chicago seems to really come up weird and come up big in some weird situations. So, but overall, I'm going to take. I think Dalvin Cook's your difference maker.
Yeah, it's double the amount of points David Montgomery had, or yards. I think just about double. So, but whatever. The next game up, the Detroit Lions are at the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee Titans knocked off Jacksonville 31-10, and the Lions lost 31-24 against Green Bay. Gave them a good game, but it's not going to be enough. I believe that you're going to see Tennessee, very much in the playoff situation, and all these games are for seeding, for divisions or whatever. And the Detroit Lions are just playing at the string. So Tennessee all the way.
Yeah, Tennessee is just a much better coached football team all the way around, and they're just prepped to kind of win a game like this. So got to pick Tennessee.
Yeah, ditto on that. I don't see this going any other way.
The Seattle Seahawks, coming off a bye week, basically, they had to play the Jets last week, playing the Washington football team. Alex Smith is now down to a 79, very Wentz-like quarterback rating. He has 4 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. The reason why they've won games is because Antonio Gibson can't get out of the way of the end zone as a running back. He's got 11 touchdowns on the season. He's the reason why, and that amazing defensive line. And the Montez Sweat has 7 sacks, but they all have great numbers across that line. And but I don't think it's going to help them tomorrow. The fact that they're not going to be able to score a whole heck of a lot of points against Seattle, even though Seattle's defense overall has been bad. Their defense has played better. I think they've lowered their per yardage per game. They've lowered it by like 15 yards a game over the last couple of weeks. So Seattle has to have this game. They absolutely have to have this game. Washington does too. I mean, they're leading if they win out, I think they win the division. So but I just think Seattle's just so much more talented. They have a much better quarterback. Alex Smith is everybody's comeback player of the year, but he doesn't have the numbers, and he won't get them tomorrow. Seattle all the way.
Yep, I got Seattle on this one too. I think if they didn't get surprised by a Giants team and a really bad loss that they had against them, this could be an opportunity for them to get caught in a trap game. But I think they understand that they have to come and they have to bring it every single week. This is one I think they know that they have to, and so I got Seattle on this one as well.
Yeah, I have Seattle. It's playoff time. Backs are against the wall. The way Seattle started this year, they're not going to end off by losing to two NFC East teams this year. So I'm going to go with Seattle.
All right. The next one is not going to take much time to talk about. The New York Jets at 0-13. They got crushed by Seattle 40-3 last week. Are going against the Los Angeles Rams, who still have visions of a lot of things in their head. They, first round bye, their division, all of it. They have to have this game, and it's a gift that they get to 10-4.
So for this game, I'm going to surprise you guys. I'm going to pick the Rams. Because nobody's picking the Jets in this one, no doubt. They're just a team that is just destined to be in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. From the comments that Trevor Lawrence has made over the last couple of days, he seems like somebody who's not going to pull an Eli Manning, that he's going to go to the place that picks him. So for Jets fans, congratulations. Hopefully that means 2 or 3 wins next year. But for this year, it means nothing. So.
Yeah. I've heard the same thing. Trevor Lawrence is not going to cause trouble. He's just going to go there and play ball. And I think he's looking at the Joe Douglas says, they're going to have a lot of good draft picks. That it's going to be a completely different team. He's going to be going there with. They can't not get a better offensive line. And they're probably going to do something to get rid of Sam Darnold. They'll get some assets for him and see where they go from there. But tomorrow is a gift. This is a free win for the LA Rams.
Yep.
Now,
no, you're like, the Jets all the way. That's what I was thinking. I'm the one who said, I told you beginning of the year, do not ask me in the Jets game. Whoever they're playing. I'll tell you, I think they're going 0-16 this year. I've been saying it, and it smells like it.
They got it now. They're 0-16. Hey, their last chance.
Well, hold on. I'm trying to think. Who do they play at the end of the year? Jets. Who's the last Jets game? Hold on.
They play the Patriots, I think. Patriots played once.
And that's the game that they almost won.
Hey. They did.
So that could be the one way they sneak out with one win at the end of the season.
If they've already clinched the number one pick, maybe they bring their starters back in, the Jets, to knock off the Patriots.
They just might come in and say, hey, listen, we want to smack Bill Belichick on the face on the way out.
Well, they got to count on Jacksonville winning another game, which is pretty incredible because Jacksonville upset Indianapolis week 1, and that is their only win on the season. So we're looking at a team that could potentially go 0-16, and then also a team that might lose 15 straight games. I mean, that's historically bad for two franchises to be vying for that number 1 overall pick that way. 2020,
baby. The Kansas City Chiefs at 12-1 got by a tough Miami team, 32-27. The Saints are coming off a tough loss to the Eagles. Actually, the score wasn't as close as the game. The game they got beat, and it looks like they're going to be stuck with Taysom Hill one more week. They're going to have to play this game without Breeze. I don't think he's playing, and the indications are so. That's not good news for Saints fans, and they're going to fall to 10-4, and they're going to drop out of contention for the number 1 seed. I mean, they're in the playoffs, and but they can't risk putting Breeze in there and having him knocked out for the playoffs because they have no chance if he's Taysom Hill, I think, was exposed a little bit against the Eagles, so I got to go with the Kansas City Chiefs all the way in this game.
Now, for sure,
have they clinched the number one overall seed in the playoff yet?
They haven't clinched it because Pittsburgh still only has 2 losses. So, there's still a chance there, obviously, that could be kind of going back and forth. I know we talked about it earlier with Green Bay, who's sitting in the driver's seat for the number one seed. They still have a tough matchup against the Titans after this week, but I still think it doesn't matter. This loss right here is going to kind of seal the deal for Green Bay to kind of take that number one seed to the bank, because I can't see, whether it's Drew Brees or not, any team right now really beating the Kansas City Chiefs. They're just playing on a whole nother world than almost anybody else. Even when their back was against the wall, that score against Miami, they kind of blew it wide open, and Miami kind of closed it back down a little bit. But Kansas City was really in control of that game after they went down 10-0. They stormed right back and then really proved that they are who they are. So Kansas City wins this game. They're probably looking at the number one seed, and a game where, like you said, they make the Saints kiss goodbye to their hopes of getting the one seed in the NFC.
Yeah, I'm going to go with KC. I've been riding the KC train. Even if Drew Brees is in there, I don't know if I can even not pick KC still. So I'm going Kansas City.
All right.
Rolling with my Mahomesy.
The Cleveland Browns are at the New York Giants. Giants, it looks like they may not have Daniel Jones with an ankle injury. And if he does play, he's going to be hobbled. And you wonder why they don't just go with Colt McCoy. But I guess they want to develop this guy, and he's their franchise quarterback, so to speak. But the Cleveland Browns are going to come in here. They want to get right back on the horse. They lost a brutal game to the to the Baltimore Ravens last week. And I don't think this is the kind of game. This is the kind of team that is going to get down the dumps and lose a second game, because the Giants are a bad team. Even though they're on the road, you got to go with the Browns to bounce back and move to 10-4.
Yeah, that had to leave a bad taste in Baker Mayfield's mouth. They go down there, they score a touchdown with like a minute left. He's like, what more do you really want from me in this kind of effort? He kind of was last couple of weeks, really honestly, shedding a lot of the notion of him just being a system quarterback, his ability to go out there and put up some stats along with leading his team out there. And this is all without Odell Beckham Jr. too, who is supposed to be the catalyst of that offense. They've been doing with the two-headed monster. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt have looked great. And when I look at that Giants team, their inability to stop the run is what's going to be the damning factor in this game, because Cleveland is just set to kind of run it down their throats.
Yeah. I gotta go Cleveland with this one. Colt McCoy, they'll get exposed. Cleveland is playing a lot better. I have to eat my crow right now, because I said Cleveland would be best 8-8 this year. So I've already been proven wrong. So I will eat the crow happily, because that Cleveland Browns team is a lot better, and I can see what a good coach can do.
Mm-hmm. All right, the last game of the night and the end of the show, the Steelers have a gift, and they're going to be keeping the Kansas City Chiefs honest because they get to play at Cincinnati against Brandon Allen. And even though the Steelers can't really run the ball right now, I think James Conner did play last week, didn't he? In their loss to Buffalo, but he really wasn't very effective. And but I don't think it's going to matter, because Roethlisberger just, and Juju Smith-Schuster will have a field day, and they roll over the Bengals and get to 12-2.
Yeah, like you said, a gift for sure. This is just an absolutely terrible Bengals team that was kind of skating by with some miraculous play from their first-round pick and first overall pick, Joe Burrow. And once he went down, the rest of the season really went down for the Bengals. They have no shot at being able to beat this Pittsburgh team. And it's really stinky because, with Joe Burrow back there, this Pittsburgh team is, very, very vulnerable. They could have potentially had a big upset here for a game that could at least given the Bengals something to ride into 2021 with, as far as, momentum goes. But it's not going to happen this week, and Pittsburgh keeps pace and makes that AFC race a little interesting still.
All right.
Yeah. You guys might be surprised. I don't know if you guys can smell a trap game.
Ooh.
Because I can't either. They're not going to lose this one.
There we go.
The Steelers will squeak. It'll be interesting just for some reason because the Steelers, I don't know, Ben's starting to show his age a little bit later in the season. The team just isn't where it was, playing up to the last few weeks. But coming off a big loss to the Bills, a divisional team that's not doing well and has nothing really to show for it, I'm going to go with the Steelers.
Makes sense.
That's going to do it for this week on Football Stories Facebook Live. I do want to thank Al Safiri for managing the show and putting up with us. Obviously, Matt Santaleri, Dr. Sean McMillan from Virtual Health Systems, and everyone out there who listened in. Thanks so much. And all you that we saw some of your messages. Thank you. And my name is Al Thompson. And until next time, we'll see you. Happy holiday.